Hi guys, today we're going to go through how to solve 3 different linear equation problem solving questions. Our first question says that a taxi driver charges a flat rate of $3 and charges $2 for every mile driven. Now the first thing you want to do once you get a question like this is identify your variables. We know that there's a flat rate of $3 and per mile driven the taxi driver charges $2. It's always good to write down your known values to the side. It always helps keep everything organized so you could solve the question. And you should know that this formula is the one that's used once we're talking about linear equations. Y equals mx plus c, sometimes written as y equals mx plus b. And what you also might know is that our value of y right here, or just y, is referred to as the dependent variable. And the reason for this is that y value is actually dependent on the value of x to help determine what that value is going to be. And the value of x, of course, is referred to as the independent variable, because it itself is not actually reliant on the value of y to help determine what it is. And so with this knowledge, we have to be able to determine an equation that helps explain the information that's given to us. So we know that we have a flat rate of $3 right here. And we know that these are the 2 places where we could substitute our values in. And now because it's our flat rate, we know that the number is going to stay the same and it won't be affected by anything else. Where would it be better for it to go? Would it be better to be substituted in the m value or the c value? Think about it for a second. Now actually the answer is that it's going to be substituted in our c value. Since it's our flat rate, that's the only amount that is going to be charged once you go into a taxi. That value isn't going to change no matter what. Whereas over here next to our m, we have an x attached to it, and that x is actually going to be the number of miles driven in the taxi. Let me show you. So we're going to get our equation y equals 2x plus 3. Now from this equation, we understand that for every mile driven, you're charged $2. So let's say, for instance, the taxi driver drove around for 1 mile. Here's what we're going to get. Y equals 2. And then for that value of x, we're going to substitute 1 because we've driven 1 mile. And then we're going to add our 3, which is our flat rate, which is what you pay. And that's going to give us 2 plus 3 equals 5. So overall, the total cost will be $5. So part B of the question says, what will be the total cost to travel 6 miles? And this is exactly like the question we just did in that example. So we have to use our same equation, y equals 2x plus 3. And all we need to do is substitute our 6 in for our x. So 2, 6 plus 3. Y equals 2 times 6 is 12 plus 3, and that's 15. And that is going to be our final answer. $15 is our total cost. And so if you were given that question in a test or an exam, all you would have to do is say $15 total cost. You would always have to use your units in these types of questions, so don't forget them. Our next question says that a plumber charges $30 to make a house call and $15 per hour of labor. Now this is pretty similar to the last question we did. The first thing, just like the last one, we want to do is write down our known variables. So we know that for a house call it's $30, and basically that's just a fancy way of saying our flat rate. So that's going to be $30. And it says per hour the plumber charges $15. Per hour, $15. Now, of course, we want to go back to our general formula, y equals mx plus c. And we know that $15 per hour is what's going to be charged. And to determine that actual number, 15 is going to have to be next to the x, of course, because that number is going to be changing throughout depending on how long the plumber is there. Whereas C, right here, is on its own, and that's going to be our flat rate, because that's just a one-time payment that you have to pay, and that won't be affected no matter how long the plumber stays there. So to get our formula, we're going to substitute 15 in for m. We're going to get 15x, and that's going to be plus 30, and the 30 is going to be our flat rate. That's pretty basic, and as long as you're able to identify the right values, you should have no problem coming up with the right answer for the general equation. So part B of the question says, if the bill was $150, how long did the plumber work? So we'll write down B right here. So this is different than the last question because we are actually given the value of y rather than us having to solve for it. So let's see. We get 150 equals 15x plus 30. And so our only unknown value is x. And that makes sense because the question asks how long did the plumber work, and x equals the number of hours. So the first thing we want to do is subtract 30. 150 minus 30 equals 15x plus 30 minus 30. And so that's going to give us 120 equals 15x. And just dividing those, x is going to be 8. So 8 hours is going to be our final answer. Just using those basic algebra skills and coming together to make that general formula, we're able to solve for that value of x, and that gives us how long the plumber works. And so that's a pretty basic question, and once again, you just need to be able to identify these values and come up with the right equation. And then any next part of the question where it asks you to find the cost or the number of hours should be pretty basic. So our third and final question says that John pays $126 in advance on his account at the gym. Each time he visits, $6 is deducted from his account. Okay, so the question says to write an equation modeling this information. So once again, we're going to write down our knowns, and although it's not specifically a flat rate, the 120, it's technically a flat rate, so it's going to be the value that we start with. 126, we'll write flat, and each time he goes, so per visit, John pays $6. So if we want to come up with our formula, we're going to write our y mx plus c, y equals. So once again, our $6 is going to be affected by the number of visits, and the only way to show that is by changing our value of x, right? So our 6 is going to be attached to the x, and then we're going to get our plus 126. But there's a catch right here, because we said that per visit $6 is deducted from the account. So this is different from our last question, right? Because in the other times we were actually adding money, but in this instance we're actually going to be subtracting money every time John goes. So actually this is going to be y equals minus 6x plus 126. And it might help you to actually rewrite this, and this is perfectly fine. 126 minus 6x. It might just help you to see things better. And that is actually going to be the final form of our equation. Now part B says, how much money is left in the account after 5 visits? And now we've pretty much gone back to the previous questions where it's the same idea. So Solving for B then, it asks how much money is left in the account after 5 visits. Using our formula, y equals 126, which is the value we start with, of course, minus 6. And in this equation, our x is going to stand for the number of visits, and we know that there's 5 visits, so we'll substitute 5 into our value of x. That's going to give us 126 minus 30, and that's going to give us $96 left in the account. And that's basically it. As always, be sure to stay organized with your values. Make sure you write everything down and that you know where each value is going in the equation. If you guys have any questions, please leave them below in the comments. Thank you for watching.